one place that's in my heart, and this is how I feel. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. She's nestled in the sandhills on a river called Cakefield. Special to so many who proudly served our country here. She was named for Lafayette and known for cotton mills. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one, heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
Call the February 27th, 2012 Fayetteville City Council meeting to order. Thank everyone for being here tonight. And we ask that you stand for our invocation led tonight by Rabbi Joseph Lebanon from Beth Israel Synagogue, who has served our community for many years and will be retiring very soon. And sir, thank you for your service to our community. And after the invocation, if you remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Our Father in heaven and source of all life, who gives salvation to nations and government, implant in all of our leaders a steadfast purpose to work for the safeguarding of freedom, justice, and peace. Thy faithful servants who have been chosen to speak for our city and set upon a pedestal of power, of privilege, and of responsibility. Do thou, gracious guardian, ever direct their deliberations that their vision and wisdom may make a Fayetteville a better city in which to live. Eternal God, help us gain the insight to know what is the good and the true. We have been chosen, brought into thy service, need to strengthen our hearts in these days of tension and perplexity. Inspire us to release those reservoirs of spirit and mind, which can make us truly partners with thee in the work of justice and peace. Grant us patience and hopefulness in our city tasks. Give us love for truth about cleverness, for people, about things. Awaken in us a desire to find this so that we may find ourselves, and in finding ourselves to make the noblest use of mind and body throughout our years. Grant us new ties of friendship, new opportunity of service for humanity, joy in the growth of children, sympathy with men and women of all creeds and races who are in need of care and affection. Keep us from pride and outgrown ways, from blindness that will not see the need for change, and from impatient judgments toward those who differ from us. We thank you for granting us the sacred privilege of participating tonight. We are grateful that in our time we can witness a world that we can help develop, a world of peace, love, and understanding, because we have chosen to be your partners in the building a better world. Amen.
Pledge allegiance. Council will begin with item 4 tonight's approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion? Mr. Bates?
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Any discussion on the motion? Ask for your vote, please. Mr. Bates? Thank you, sir. That's unanimous. Okay, we'll ask City Manager Dale Lyman to come up and update the council and the community on the Police Department Traffic Stops Action Plan timeline. Mr. Lyman?
Good evening, Council. I provided you with a copy of the update earlier before the meeting here. And basically, the February 27th report has remained unchanged since the last report that was given. Everything is still on track and on schedule as reported earlier. That would include, first of all, the step 1 action, which was to identify an organization, of course, to do a study.
Can I ask you to do us a favor? Is there a way we can put it on the screen where everybody in the audience can see it?
The print's not large enough to read, unfortunately. With this much text. We tried that last time, it just isn't showing up. Step 1 again, the action item was to identify an organization external to the Fayetteville Police Department to review all the traffic stop policies and procedures and standards of conduct. We hired the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Officials, executives rather, to come in. They've conducted their on-site visit. They've made numerous contacts throughout the community, continue to do so, are now writing the report, and the report will be given to council on March 12th and made public at that time. Step 2 is to have the dash cams installed in all the patrol vehicles of the police department, and that again is on schedule to be completed by March 1st for all the existing fleet of the department. All new vehicles that are purchased by the department will also have dash cams installed. Action 3 has already been accomplished. That was to develop a reliable and valid police citizen contact data collection and reporting system, which would also show the information required by the City Council in October, an articulable reason for the traffic stops, and that process is in place and is being tested for accuracy. And step 4 then is to review and revise, implement changes to the current citizen and employee complaint process, and look at the potential for creating an external review of complaints and resolutions on regular basis rather. And also look at the external review process for citizen complaints and the possibility of using some external means to accomplish that. That will be one of the recommendations that is being explored by Noble and will be incorporated into their report on March 12th. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Okay, sir. Thanks for the update. Council will move into item 5, tonight's consent agenda. Mr. Hurst. Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Bates. Discussion on the motion? May I ask for your vote, please? That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll move now to item 6, which are tonight's public hearings. Let me give the rules of the public hearing. First of all, each side will have a total of 15 minutes to present your position, whether you are for or against. Individual speakers will have one time to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes each unless by previous arrangement a single spokesman is designated, in which case the spokesman may use the entire 15 minutes. When you hear the beep and see the light located on the podium change from green to yellow, that means there's approximately 30 seconds left of the 3 minutes. And when you hear the beep and see the timer located blink and change from yellow to red, that means the full 3 minutes has expired. We ask that when your name is called, you come to the podium and state your name and address loudly so we can make note of it for the record. We'll begin with item 6.1, a quasi-judicial public hearing regarding Aaron Lakes West. And I think all the speakers would need to be sworn in. Madam Clerk,
So we have 3 speakers on this item.
could you call their name, please?
Yes, sir. Lorraine Muller, Scott Brown, and Mindy Love Stanley.
If you would step up, we all need to be sworn in for this type of particular hearing here, so please join us up with the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Sir, our first speaker is Miss Lorraine Muller.
We'll begin with the presentation
sorry.
from staff, ma'am. Mr. Schiffer, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience in me bringing this up. And I'm afraid I don't see it down here. Nope.
When you put it on, it was this one, I think, is a funny name.
Oh, they've got a different name to it. Here it is. Didn't recognize it with that interesting name. Mayor and council members, as you know, our development regulations require connectivity between subdivisions, but they also provide for an opportunity for affected parties to appeal staff decisions that deal with connectivity, and that appeal comes to you. And since this is the first connectivity appeal that you've had, I have some information for you. As you know, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's very much like the special use permit hearing that you will hear later tonight. You've seen that the sworn testimony is required, and each side has the ability to ask questions of anyone who testifies. If there are any questions about it, our city attorney is here to help us follow the procedural requirements. Before we get started, though, on the appeal itself, I just want to say a few words about why connectivity is important. Probably the most important reason is that the street network is largely a permanent thing. If you think about buildings, they last 50 or 100 years. They go through transition. They may reach a point where they're physically obsolete and are demolished. They may become functionally obsolete and have to be changed to some other use. They may be used in an adaptive situation, such as a large residence that becomes a professional office. But the buildings will change, but that street network is much more permanent, and that's why it's very important for us to get it right the first time. This slide provides a comparison of a connected street network on the right-hand side and a more of a typical subdivision with cul-de-sacs on the left. And
If you look at the connected street network, you can see it's possible to get almost anywhere in that neighborhood without having to get out on any of the major roads. Whereas if you're in the cul-de-sac type subdivision, you must get on that major road even to go visit a nearby neighbor. A connected street network like that's shown on the right provides for public safety, improved utility installation, greater neighborhood convenience, and public and private service delivery benefits. Now, when you don't have formal connections, oftentimes informal ones will develop, such as these two, and you can see that sometimes that creates problems for the point of someone even putting up a no trespassing sign. So I'll move on to the subject subdivision and orient you to the location. There we go. This is Fisher Road. Up here is Strickland Bridge Road. The subject property is right here, and this is the adjoining neighborhood through which connections will occur along this point. And that is the point of connectivity in that subdivision. And that location is off of Lakewell Circle, and you can see that the travel pattern from this subdivision out to Fisher Road will go along this stretch of, let's see, that's Lakeway Drive. This is an aerial of the subject property, and right here is where that connection will occur if the appeal is not over is up. The appeal is not approved tonight. I've managed to turn the subdivision plat sideways so it's oriented the same way as the other slides I've shown you. And there's the connection, and then here is where there will be, in some future date, the potential for connection to a larger property that is to the sort of the northwest of this site. And you can see that property located to the left here. It's got AR on it. It's zoned that. But here's the overlay of the subdivision onto that aerial. And this actually shows where that connection would go to this larger property here at some future point in time. This is our sign that we put up to notify people that there was going to be a proposed street connection there. The end of this street is where that would occur, and you can see it sort of stubbed out into the woods where that new development will occur. A neighbor got in touch with us and made a couple of suggestions. So she suggested that we consider some traffic calming, perhaps along Lakeway. Shown there in the red would be the portion that would be covered by the, mostly affected by the travel pattern from this subdivision, because people will come out here, and while they will have some trips that will go in this direction to visit other people in the neighborhood, most of the traffic will go out to Fisher Road. In addition, there was a suggestion that open space connections occur that would make it possible for the existing neighborhood to have better utilization of open space in this neighborhood. And we've raised that issue with the developer's representative. We'll find out, sorry about that. We'll find out whether or not there are any concerns with that, but that's not an issue for you tonight. Traffic calming is something that you could potentially condition, but the open space connectivity is not something that's related to the issue before you tonight. So we're not suggesting that you go in that direction whatsoever. That is the end of my presentation. I do want to know that, let you know that the amount of traffic that will be generated from this neighborhood is about 17 or 18% of the traffic that's already coming from that neighborhood. So it is a good bit of traffic, clearly, but it is a small percentage of the total traffic that uses the street network in this area from these two subdivisions. That concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions of me?
We do,
before
sir.
you
Mr.
open
Hare
the
and then
public
Mr.
hearing?
Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Shilford, for your presentation. What other way of informing the community that what was about to take place other than that small sign that we saw?
That's a great question. We did send out notices, and a neighborhood meeting was held with the community to let them know about the connection. And so there has been widespread effort to get the word out to the community.
Is it the same zoning radius?
Yes,
As
sir.
far as numbers with the zoning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Bates? Yes, sir. Mr. Bates?
Sir, is there a traffic light at Fisher and Lakeway?
No, sir, I don't believe there is.
Will there be one required? Because that'll actually come out to like a four-way intersection then, won't it?
Let me go back to that. And it's actually existing. It does cross over to the subdivision on the other side. You would have to have sufficient number of lots and sufficient traffic to create the warrant for a traffic signal. Right now, I doubt that warrant is met, but I would ask that question of the applicant when he comes forward to discuss it, because being an engineer, he's going to know more about the precise nature of that warrant. I will say that the larger the subdivision, the more likely that you end up getting a traffic signal somewhere in the future. I would also point out that as this larger property is developed, if their connections do occur in there, this property will clearly have to have a connection to Fisher, and almost certainly also to Strickland Bridge Road, and then that will create a much more distributed transportation network with people able to get out in a direction that is going to benefit their travels.
Okay, thank you. And then in our packet, who came up with the total trips that are listed now? This one says a 32-lot single-family residential subdivision, and you come up with 330 trips
Yes, sir.
total a day?
It's just over 10 trips a day per each single-family residence on average. That's a very standard number that comes from traffic engineering studies. And when we say trips, well, let me make sure everyone's clear. It's not out and back as a trip. If you go out to work and you come back, that's 2 trips.
Mhm.
So obviously, if you have 2 people in the house, they both go to work, there's at least 4 trips that way during the day from that house, but other trips do happen, and that's just an average that is used by traffic engineering to estimate the amount of trips. And so this larger 182 unit subdivision, for example, would probably generate something like 1,870 trips a day.
Okay, well, they must increase that, because I was always under the impression it was either 6 or 7. I'm not quite. It was 6 or 7 trips. I don't know how that got bumped up to 10 trips per,
I'll be glad to get you some information on that, but I will say, Mr. Bates, that if you get into multifamily type housing, the trips go down to 8 and sometimes to 6, depending upon the type of housing.
Thank you.
Mr. Fowler?
Mr. Shuford answered that question. I was going to ask about, once the larger neighborhood was in, if there was going to be a connector on Fisher, and he answered that. Thank you.
Ms. Applewhite?
Thank you, Mayor. In our packet, it says that the staff finds no evidence to indicate that the development of this subdivision won't have an impact on the property values of that Lakewell Circle, that one street where it seems that's going to pick up the majority of the traffic. How do you do that? What did you use or look at to determine that that wouldn't have an impact on that particular street?
What we look at there is the amount of activity whether the land use that is being proposed is compatible with what is existing. In this case, it's fairly large lot, single-family homes, just like that neighborhood. And the amount of traffic, as I mentioned earlier, is not substantial relative to the overall development. And of course, as time goes on and other connections occur, there'll be less traffic using from this subdivision using the Lakewell connection there.
So what I'm trying to understand, if there was a house, let's say for sale on Lakewell, where it's going to pick up the majority of the traffic, and then there is a house on, was it Rivermead perhaps, in the back of the subdivision, so all things being equal, you're saying that staff believes there is no impact on that home that's sitting on that Lakewell place that's picking up that extra traffic?
No, ma'am, and let me just point this out. If I can get this pointer back here. Let's say you have this lot right here.
Okay.
Not to pick on any one of them, but it could be any in this area.
Right.
Think about the number of cars that will be going past that from the existing neighborhood.
Okay.
And there are 32, excuse me, making it go backwards. 32 homes that will be here, and this whole subdivision is 182. So in effect, up to this intersection, there's roughly 70 or 80 homes that travel this direction or this direction as a result of the existing development. So we don't see that traffic as being a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Crisp?
I have a question. I prefer to wait, Mr. Mayor, if I may, until after the speakers.
All right, sir. Okay, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to open the public hearing. We know there's some confusion about, since we have an appeal tonight, so if you're speaking in favor when the clerk calls your name, you actually would be speaking in support of the appeal, which is opposed to the connectivity. So the appeal is, this is confusing tonight, but if you're speaking in favor, and it doesn't matter which side of this you signed up on, we're going to make sure we get you in the right place. But if you're speaking in favor when the clerk calls your name, you will be speaking in favor of the appeal, which is in opposition to the connectivity. Okay? Then when we get to the in opposition, we'll go back over those rules. But we'll begin with in favor of the appeal, which is opposed to the connectivity. Ma'am, go ahead.
Favor of the opposition.
Sir, our first speaker is Miss Lorraine Muller.
Opposed to the connectivity.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Mindy Love Stanley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Mindy Love Stanley. Do I have to give my address like we normally do?
Yes, please.
2287 Lakewell Circle, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28306. I am opposed to the connection. When we first moved into our neighborhood 14 years ago, it was a dead-end street. It was called Lakewell Circle that went to nowhere, and that was because there's a wetlands that ends at the end of our street and goes just down the hill. And if you have that picture that has the aerial photo, if that could be brought back up, I can show you where that would be. But they told us they were not going to develop it. Originally, it was supposed to be a circle that circled around back to our neighborhood, and it didn't. And they told us at that time it was not going to go any further. One of the reasons that we're objecting to the connection is our street does not our neighborhood does not have sidewalks. We have, right now, I know my neighbors. I know who they are. I know what they drive. I know what looks odd. I walk my dogs there every day. The only speeders I have to contend with are the ones that live there. We're going to connect another neighborhood to the end of our street. We're going to invite, 17% more vehicle traffic to people that are going to have houses that 18%. We were told there was not going to be a future Fisher Road connection, so that was confusing to me in the brief that we just had. we're looking at something, we talked about connectivity with Summer Grove 1 and 2, and then the Palms. And Mr. Crisp, I had emailed you on that, and we talked about it because they were going to connect houses that are $250,000 thereabouts to houses that sell for about $140,000, and people who are going to be driving through the neighborhood and they're not going to care. You know, we already have a problem with littering, we have a problem with speeding, and those are the people that live there. So the people that don't live there, what are they going to do? They're going to go freeway in through there like they do across the street where it's between Bingham and Fisher Roads. Currently, that neighborhood, Aaron Lakes West, across the street from us, has a connection between Bingham and Strickland. And those people have their shades drawn, and it looks like no one spends any time out in their front yard. There's no neighborhood. It's not a connection. It's a place where people live, and that's it. They don't commune with their neighbors. I know my neighbors. My neighbors are out here. There's a whole bunch of them, and I know them by name. And I know them by name because I'm out in my area. These people are not going to be communing with us in our neighborhood. They're not going to drive down to the bottom of the neighborhood and hang out with us. They're going to drive to their neighborhood, and then eventually it's going to connect to Fisher Road, and it's going to connect to Strickland Bridge, and all of those areas. All this area here that you can see, it looks very dark. That's wetlands. And it's a very steep hill. I live on a very steep hill. The topography there is terrible for development. And just recently, we just approved 78 duplexes, and a comment was made to me on that there's going to be development, and this is from Mr. Crisp, which I understand. His response was, there's going to be development along Fisher Road. My vision is to try and limit growth and development to residential. Because of our economy and lack of job security, developers and builders are building less and less single-family dwellings because they are not selling, and that is a quote. He also stated that he lived off Yadkin Road 50 years ago when it was 2 lanes with a country store on the corner of Horseshoe and Yadkin. It was peaceful and quiet, and Fort Bragg officers were buying homes in Cottonade. Look at it now. That's the point. Look at it now. People don't want to live there. People want to live where we live. Well, I want to live where I will live too. I enjoy this neighborhood. My neighbors enjoy this neighborhood. And I think connecting neighborhoods with dissimilar amenities is not a good idea. I mean, connect all the new neighborhoods you want together. I think that's fabulous. When we did the UDO, we talked about connection. Connection wasn't just streets. It was also walking paths and sidewalks and things like that connected neighborhoods. That's in the UDO. Where's that option? I mean, we can be connected. We don't have to have a driveway or a road that goes through there, but you can still be connected to the neighborhood. So that's the point that I would like to make. I don't even know how much time I have left, but it's just frustrating because I look at the 2023 vision for the city of Fayetteville, and I like to know how that applies to our side of town. I don't live in Haymount. I don't live north, where you're building all the wonderful green space parks and that sort of thing. We have no parks in our area. Honeycutt is not a park. That is barely a sports complex. There are no sidewalks. There are no trees. The only trees are over the parking lot. You have to drive there to even do anything. I mean, if we want to go to a park facility, we have to drive all the way across town. I want the vision of 2023 where I live, and it just doesn't seem like it's happening. And that's fine. If it's not going to happen, someone just needs to tell us so that we just know. I mean, don't keep stringing us along with, this is how we're going to develop Fayetteville, and then, put in houses by the dozens. I have on my cell phone, I wish I could bring it up, the neighborhood. Our neighborhood has trees, and it's beautiful. It's established. You look at all the new neighborhoods over there, there isn't a tree in sight except for these stubby little Bradford pears that nobody wants in their front yard. They have sidewalks, though, so I guess that's a good thing. It's just frustrating because our neighborhood already has a lot of people in it, and I think we're connecting another 32 homes, and then we're going to end up connecting however many other homes, and they're going to go all the way out to Strickland Bridge, and it's going to end up just like across the street where people don't come out of their house, they don't want to socialize with their neighbors, they don't want to know what's going on, they just want to go home, shut the blinds, and just pretend that the world doesn't exist. And I particularly don't want to live like that, and I don't think my neighbors do. And if you could stand up, if you're from Aaron Lakes West, that would be great. I mean, we're not all here, this is a small representation because people are busy, but we don't want this, and we've all been here for a long time. So, is there anything else you guys think I need to add? Good? I think we're good. Thank you.
All right, watch your posse.
Our next speaker is Lorraine Muller. Okay, that would be Mr. Scott Brown. These are opposition of...
Is there anyone else
of the-
here tonight who has signed up previously who would be speaking in favor of the appeal? Is anyone else that signed up? Okay. So anyone else will be speaking in favor of the connectivity against the appeal? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brown?
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Scott Brown, 409 Chicago Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I am here tonight as the owner's representative. We are the engineers and surveyors for the project. We are in opposition to the appeal. We are for the connection. Article 30-5, Section AF, subsection 4 of the newly adopted UDO requires street connectivity. If you take a look at how Lakeville Circle was constructed as well as was platted, it's not a cul-de-sac. It was not built as a cul-de-sac, nor was it ever platted as a cul-de-sac. It was platted for the intention of, at some point in the future, that would be a future street connection. And as part of the UDO requirements for street connectivity, we are proposing a connection to that street. Now, this plan that was proposed before you tonight, that's in each one of your package, has gone before the TRC. We have met with DOT and city traffic and city engineering. DOT is in favor of the street connection. They're not in favor of another connection to Fisher Road, as well as city traffic, as well as city engineering. So all of those individuals have reviewed it and are in favor of the current site plan as before you tonight. It was submitted to TRC. Staff reviewed it. Staff approved it as Mr. Shuford mentioned. There was a neighborhood meeting held. We did send out flyers to all the residents and had public opinion. We did have a healthy number of neighbors that showed up and that were against it. At that point in time, they were made aware of the fact they could file a petition for the connectivity. But we feel that we are complying with the UDO and putting the connectivity and adding a street connection there, that we are in accordance with DOT, city traffic and city engineering as far as the public safety, and trying to keep that street connection down out on Fisher Road. As you know, Fisher Road is a busy street. It is scheduled for widening at some point in the future. And we also, as Mr. Shuford mentioned, we are proposing a connection to the adjoining piece of property that at some point in the future, that it may not be next year, it may be several years down the road, but at some point in time, that piece of property will be developed. And when that piece of property is developed, it's going to provide a network of roads, multiple access points out to another connection to Fisher Road, and more than likely a connection to Strickland Bridge Road. So we are here tonight asking you that you vote against the petition and allow the project to move forward based on not my opinion, but the review of city traffic, city engineering, and DOT as well, and the fact that that road, I mean, we're not proposing to tear out an existing road and extend it out. We're extending a road that was already platted to be extended. And we feel that in the future that we are providing a betterment to the community. We want to be a part of the community, and we want to kind of blend in, and we don't want to have a standalone. And we're trying to comply with the UDO as well as with public safety requirements. That was all I had to say. I don't know if anybody's got any questions before I step down.
We'll need to close the public hearing, Mr. Brown, but it could be some questions afterwards, sir.
Thank you.
Don't go too far, Mr. Brown. You probably need to sit on that first row.
So we have no more speakers.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and entertain questions from council. Mr. Christ, I understand you have one, sir.
Mr. Shuford? Looking at the slide, the wooded area immediate to the left, that large wooded area is zoned what now? Left. To the
Oh,
left.
to the left?
The large green area.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's zoned AR, agricultural residential.
And what can we build in AR?
A very large lot, single family, or it can be used for agricultural purposes.
Do we have an approved plan to develop that
No,
for
sir.
single-family homes?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. Well, let me bring some points to mind here. It says here the developer does not want to provide a connection to Fisher Road
That's true.
for the development in question, Aaron Cove, 32 units, right?
That's correct.
And then further down, it said the development of the adjacent property, I think we're talking about that big green area,
Yes, sir.
would probably result in a connection to Strickland Bridge Road and Fisher Road.
That's correct.
So we want to deny the people in Aaron Cove faster access to emergency vehicles from Bailey Lake Fire Station. But later on, if we develop the big one, we'll let a road be cut to Fisher Road at that time.
Yes.
And then we will bring all that traffic from the 88 unit on to Strickland Bridge Road, which has 10 times the traffic of Fisher Road. That ain't equating in my book. That's not making sense to me. We have you want the fire trucks and EMS to come down Lakeway to get into Aaron Cove. That's what we're talking about, huh?
Yes, sir.
You know what? I wouldn't have a problem with the connectivity of Lakewell Circle into Aaron Cove. But I do have a property of not having an access on the Fisher Road because the developer doesn't want to put one there. When everything tells me that logically it ought to be. That is a question.
Put a motion out there.
That is a question.
Yes, sir.
Why should we accept that explanation for not creating a faster access for safety vehicles?
Well, Mr. Crisp, the answer I have for you is, first of all, not only does the developer not want to put the connection to Fisher Road, the North Carolina Department of Transportation does not prefer that, nor does our city engineering and infrastructure department, because of the relatively small volume from this and the relative short distance between where these two connections would occur. Certainly a connection to Fisher, should you uphold this appeal, will have to happen in order to allow this property to be accessed. And at some point in time, again, there probably would be a potential for connection back through to this larger property. But a better spot would probably be further down for a connection to Fisher, and then also the opportunity to connect into Strickland Bridge, which would allow people to choose how they want to go. If the traffic volume is high, and you're having trouble getting out onto some of these roads by making a left, there's opportunities to come up and make a right and get to points where you can more easily travel. So that's the point of having connectivity, is to allow you more options about how you can get in and out.
And I understand that, Mr. Schubert, but my concern is, why do we want to make those people wait until some land may be developed in the future that gives them a 1.5 mile run through that 88 unit area all the way over to Strickland Bridge Road, when a very short connector could be made there on Fisher, and then later on the Fisher Road connection that's alluded to in here wouldn't have to be made, it's already there. To me, it seems that's logical. I don't know. I'm not an engineer.
And I'm not one either, so I'm giving you the my translated version of what I've learned from the TRC minutes and discussing it with staff.
Mr. Brown, please. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, may I, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chris?
Mr. Brown, do you have know of a plan for that property that's AR, that huge tract that we're talking about that may have an egress-ingress off Strickland Bridge?
No, sir.
So we have no way of knowing whether that property will or will not be developed in the near future?
No more so than when they developed Aaron Lakes West, that they knew that Aaron's Cove would be coming at some point down the road. That's why they stubbed out to Aaron's Cove.
What is the objection to putting an ingress-egress into Aaron Cove on the Fisher Road?
DOT does not want it, city engineering does not want it, nor does city traffic want it.
Why?
Why do they not want it?
Right.
Because each time you have a point of access, you increase the chances of accidents, and it creates additional liabilities every time you have a connection to that street.
But-
And since we already have a connection to Fisher Road in that near vicinity, I dare say if city council tonight said, yes, you're going to have to connect to Fisher Road, we're going to still make you connect to Lakewell Circle, that DOT would have a hard time trying to approve it because you've already got a connection there. I don't know if they'd even approve it or not.
Well, it tells me in this paperwork that later on, you're probably going to have an ingress on Fisher Road for the 88 unit track.
And DOT has looked at that, and they said that when that track was developed as large as it is, it would warrant a connection. But 32 lots in that general vicinity next to the existing access to Aaron Lakes West did not warrant a connection, and they would.
I have 182 homes in Aaron Lakes West, and if we do the connectivity with Lakewell Circle
Yes, sir.
and an egress-ingress through there on the Fisher, then many of those people that live at the back of Aaron Lakes West, 182 units, can come out through there and take some of the pressure off Lakeway.
I think when you're talking about taking pressure off, you're talking about taking pressure off maybe backing traffic up in a subdivision, whereas now you're taking that traffic, instead of putting it at one point on Fisher Road, now you're splitting it at two different points on Fisher Road. The same traffic, you're doubling the chances of accidents. Now, I'm not DOT, I can't speak for them, but I have had several conversations with them.
See, I've been out there in the morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
On Fisher Road. I've been out there in the morning on Strickland Bridge Road, and I've seen the backed up traffic, okay?
Yes, sir.
When you tell me in here that when and if the 88 track is developed, there'll be an ingress-egress on the Strickland Bridge Road.
I'm assuming that. Now, I can't tell you exactly what's going to be done with this piece of property, no more so than they could tell you what was going to be done with Aaron's Cove when Aaron Lakes West was built several years ago. I mean, I can only assume, and I can only base I'm repeating the conversations that I had with the other individuals.
Let me make this point, and then I'll go no further. The optimum time that we desire for an emergency vehicle, and Chief, you're in here back there, we would like for an emergency vehicle, a fire truck, to reach a house within 5 minutes. Am I right, Chief? All right. We got a problem already because we've got to bring a fire vehicle from Bailey Lake Station or from Stony Point to get into Aaron Lakes now. We're pressing it, okay? And so I'm saying it makes all the sense in the world to me to give emergency vehicles an entrance through Aaron Cove, Mr. Mayor,
Bill,
off Fisher Road,
Mr. Chris,
that minimizes the time. Thank you, sir.
we're going to get a motion on the floor and have a discussion about that. Right now, we're just trying to make sure we ask any questions that we might have. Mr. Bates, you have any questions, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Shuford. Now, keep me straight on this. Is DOT saying they cannot egress out to Fisher Road, or is that what the developer is saying?
While Mr. Chris was talking to Mr. Brown, I went through the file for the case and looked it up, and the comments from TRC were that the connection that is there already from the other Aaron's subdivision is sufficient, and there's not an interest on the part of DOT or city traffic, or for that matter, our fire department, to connect. And let me just read you what Chief Major has provided to us. Our staff has reviewed and discussed the property and area of the new Aaron's Cove subdivision. Operationally, we have no issues with the design as proposed. The travel distance is negligible with either option as shown, or making the connection to Fisher Road. If additional information is needed, feel free to contact me. So,
Mr. I'm not worried about the fire and rescue.
Yes, sir.
Who said they cannot egress or ingress onto Fisher Road, the developer or DOT?
The DOT controls the access, but if they have no other choice to access the property, DOT will be forced to give them access to Fisher Road. Did that answer your question?
So if this is, just for an example, if this was to be denied tonight, then they would have access onto Fisher Road.
Right, they would have to redesign their subdivision in such a fashion that they would connect to Fisher directly.
Now, the next one would be, in order for them to go out onto Fisher Road, then from what I can see in here, is these 0 lot lines subdivision? I think it was number 11. It mentioned something about 0 lot lines.
I think you're going to have to ask Mr. Brown that question, Mr. Bates.
Okay, well, if they were to go on Fisher, then they would probably lose like 2 lots that they could put a house on. So instead of 32, probably down to 30, maybe even 29.
Why don't you ask Mr. Brown that?
He's the designer of the subdivision. He would be the more likely one to ask that question.
Ask the question, Mr. Bates. Let's see if we can get it.
Okay, now if, just for example, if you had to go out onto Fisher Road,
Yes, sir.
looking like here, it'd probably be 2, maybe 3 lots that you would lose for turning lanes that you would not be able to put a house on. Is that correct, or would you not lose?
It is a
any
0
lots?
lot line. We have not looked at it as a connection to Fisher Road. I would agree with you that you're probably going to lose a couple lots, but I've not looked at it as far as trying to lay it out. And the reason it was not looked at is because initial conversations with DOT and city traffic said that that's not the way to go with it. So we didn't even pursue that route.
Thank you. Now, you did say these were going to be 0 lot lines,
Yes, sir.
and the ones on Lakeway Drive are not 0 lot lines, or they are 0 lot lines?
I cannot answer that question. I don't recall if there were 0 lot lines on Lakewell or not.
Yeah,
I can
they're
answer
not
that.
0 lot lines.
Ms. Applewhite?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shuford, the previous picture that was up there was a comment made. There was a concern between DOT and staff that too many entryways onto Fisher Road. Can you put that other picture back up there?
Yes, ma'am. Be glad to.
That one right there. Okay. So I'm not really familiar with the streets, but if you look at Fisher, there's 1, 2, 3 entryways onto Fisher, isn't it? If you start down at the bottom.
Yes, ma'am. There's one right here.
Come down. Yeah, right.
This
Yeah,
would be the next one that's the one that's affected by this discussion.
right.
There's a short one here, and then there's one right there.
Okay. So now we already have those, and I can't, know the physical distance between. But if you already have 3 or 4 of them there, I don't understand why adding one more. And I understand it may change the design of the plan, but the rationale that there's too many on the Fisher, we already have 3 right together, so I don't know why a 4th one is going to be a deal breaker.
Well, engineers have standards about spacing between intersections in order to make sure you have a safe ingress and egress of property.
Okay.
And that's one of the difficulties you have, for example, where you have this connection here, but it's not connected into this neighborhood. Only the people who live in this area are able to get out in Fisher. And after a period of time, when you have other ones that are nearby and lining up sequentially, and obviously this property right here may end up having to have some connection to Fisher as well, because it's not part of this development, nor is it really part of the this subdivision. Then you end up creating what engineers refer to as side friction that reduces the amount of capacity that the main road is able to handle because of all the ins and outs of it. It's, for example, it's why you don't allow typically individual lots to have access to larger roads so that you don't get those driveway connections. It will not be the end of traffic on Fisher Road if a connection is made to this subdivision. And depending upon the outcome of a connectivity appeal as far as this property is concerned, that might be the point of access to Fisher for this larger property. Right now, this property could be developed with about 177 lots, roughly the same amount of development that's in this existing subdivision here. Now, of course, the zoning change could alter that as well. But if you decide that you want a connection to Fisher here, then the correct action is to uphold the appeal and not allow this connection to occur.
So on those 3 entryways to Fisher, I'm not familiar with that street, but are those stop signs at the subdivisions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if we look at the one in Lake Way, it seems to be right directly across from another entryway on the other side of Fisher. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we were to move up, in the proposed lot, I mean, appears to be nothing directly across, so it'd just be one entryway. You'd be kind of looking at another subdivision, or there's not another street that it would be facing or entryway, correct?
Right. If you were to put a connection here, you got these properties, and I'm not sure what their development status is, but I suspect they've got some housing on them. Let me go to an aerial. Yes, here across the street you've got individual houses with their own individual driveways connecting directly to Fisher. So basically, if you were to put a street anywhere in here, for the most part, you would end up with 32 homes accessing right at about where some individual driveways would be accessing on the other side of the street.
And my last question is there a minimum standard that you can have, a minimum separation between entryways onto a major street?
Yes, ma'am. That's an engineering standard, and I'll ask Mr. Brown to, if he has specific information about that. Obviously, it depends upon the scale of the road. The larger the road, the greater the separation. The more speed of the road, the greater the separation that's recommended. But I don't believe that the connection to Fisher at some location up in this area would violate the standard, but it's certainly not a preferred situation.
Okay, thank you.
But if you want to follow up with an engineer, you certainly could.
Can you just for informational purposes, what is the minimum amount of separation, if you're familiar with Fisher Road, or the standard between entryways onto a road like Fisher?
Generally, you do not want to have driveway connections closer than 400 feet to each other. That's a general. I mean, that's certainly not a rule. It's just a general observation. And like Mr. Schubert said, it's all going to depend on the street. And when it's all said and done, it all comes down to really DOT's call. They cannot deny you access to your property, but they're not necessarily going to give you 3 or 4 connections to your property either. You got to have at least 400 feet of frontage or more to get more than one connection to a piece of property. That's why the requirement for multiple connections is such a difficult task to overcome based on the number of lots and all you have if you don't have a lot of road frontage.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chuford, please.
Yes, sir.
You seem to be a little ahead of me each time tonight when I'm getting ready to ask a question. I think you covered it, but I would like to talk to you about the connectivity. If there is a road put in with a connection at Fisher, this new subdivision is still going to have to show connectivity back to the possible development later on. Is that correct?
Well, I think if you want to be sure that there's going to be a connection to Fisher, then you probably should uphold the appeal, because once there's a single connection to Fisher there, the need for the connectivity will be somewhat reduced. I don't know if you can actually condition a connection to Fisher in exchange for granting the or allowing the connection to the neighborhood to remain.
Now, what I'm asking is for future connectivity of the new neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
It currently has to be planned, correct?
Right.
for any adjoining possible neighborhoods, which is the one behind there.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, whether they have a connection coming in off of Fisher or not, they're going to have to still have connectivity to that undeveloped land for future reference.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
You're exactly
In which
right.
case, then, we could be back with another appeal through that neighborhood for connectivity into that area. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. If you look at this, this probably would show it. Fisher Road is over here, and this is where their connection is being proposed. So to back up, that connection would be about in here.
But rather, if they have to redesign for an access onto Fisher, they're still going to have to provide connectivity somewhere else to that other,
Yes,
from
sir.
this current neighborhood to the next neighborhood to come down the street.
That's
Is that right?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harp?
Mr. Brown, I'm looking at a satellite view of this area. Strickland Bridge, that road, Fisher Road area has really grown a lot. A question I have is, as I look at this, DOT, of course, is looking long-term at traffic consequences. Would it be a reasonable assumption that if they were looking for a future traffic light, they'd be looking at Lakewood Drive as a prime candidate? Because it's a four-way intersection?
I guess that could be a reasonable assumption, but the question was posed, would that intersection of Lakewell with the addition of these 32 lots posed, it did move forward, and that's the way connection was made with no connection to Fisher Road. Would that warrant the need for a traffic signal? And they said no. And its current state, and that could change later on down the road, but the use today with those 32 lots added to it did not warrant a signal.
There's not sufficient traffic coming out of the subdivision to warrant a traffic signal.
No, sir. Per DOT.
But that's the current traffic flow today on Fisher Road. But in the future, based on a need to,
Well, that could change, but I would think, if you can put a signal, you want to put it at a four-way intersection.
because
That'd
as
be
I look down the road,
optimum
that's the
place.
only four-way intersection I see within about, along the entire road between Strickland Bridge and Cumberland Road. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct, that's the only one.
I
only
couldn't
four ways.
answer that 100%, but I think you may be right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any additional questions? No, ma'am, I'm sorry. Thank you. Ms. Chris?
Mr. Mayor, do I make a motion and then discussion, or may I make a statement?
No, I think we need to make a motion so we can have some discussion, sir.
I move that this council adopt option 2, which reads, based upon testimony, finding one or more of the findings, 1 through 5, in the negative, and approve the appeal of the proposed street connection.
Okay.
That's my motion.
See if there's a second to that. Mr. Bates, you second? Okay, we have a motion and an appropriate second. Okay, back to you, Mr. Chris, for some discussion.
Well, I'm wrestling, Mr. Mayor, with item 4. Does the connection maintain safe ingress and egress and safe road conditions? And it states staff finding that allowing this connection is a safer option. It's an 18% increase in tax and an 18% increase in accident probability, whether they come out on Lake Way or whether there's an ingress-egress coming out of Aaron Cove. Then they tell us later on that there will be or possibly an ingress-egress on Fisher Road when the larger track is developed. I don't know that we should need to show deference to something that's not even in the planning stage as opposed to what's on the planning board right now. Thus, the reason for my motion to deny the connectivity and send them back to take another look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on the motion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. The motion is option number 2, based upon the testimony, find one or more of the findings 1 through 5 in the negative, and approve the appeal of the proposed street connection. Everyone clear on the vote? Let me ask for your vote on that, please. Mr. Bates? Okay, that is a 5-5 vote. That motion did not carry. Those in favor of the motion, Mr. Chris, Mr. Bates, and Ms. Applewhite, Ms. Davy, and Mr. Hare. In opposition, Mr. Hertz, Mr. Shivani, Mr. Art, Mr. Massey, Mr. Fowler. Sure.
Now, I know we can make a motion in the opposite of what Mr. Crisp did. I'm not going to do that. My question is, if no motions are made, then what is the disposition of this?
Ask Ms. McDonald that, sir.
Ms. McDonald?
I get in trouble every time I practice law.
Do I need to repeat, Ms. McDonald? Okay.
The proposal was for the connectivity, and the appeal was to, if you will, to prohibit the connectivity. So that doesn't pass, and so the connectivity would continue. Because that was the motion, and the motion didn't pass.
May I make another motion?
Go ahead, Mr. Chris.
I move for option 3 then, based upon testimony in the negative, and send the site plan back to the TRC with direction to require additional connectivity to address the negative finding. This will allow the proposed street connection, but require the development to develop additional connections to mitigate the impact.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion of that motion? Ms. Applewhite?
Will this motion allow the opportunity to get more information from DOT about what I have a problem with is some of the questions that Mr. Crisp asked earlier, to be more clear on why DOT does not want it. Just because they don't want it doesn't settle well. Would this motion allow the opportunity to perhaps get a briefing from, or
I think the
more?
second half of this, ma'am, if you say, it says this, I believe I'm reading this right, that this would allow the proposed street connection, but require the development to develop additional connections to mitigate the impacts identified by the findings of fact. So this would allow the connectivity and require the development to seek additional connections.
So that one right there on Lake Well would still move forward?
Based on
That's how
the
it's
wording of
reading.
this option,
I'm
yes, ma'am.
so confused.
Okay, so what would,
Go ahead,
Mr. Bates?
so what would be the additional connectivity requirement? Fisher, or wait for the, say, we're just going to do a stub out to connect into the vacant property to the left, 182 lot when it's built? I mean, that's,
I don't know, sir.
so then you'll have 182 plus the 32 connected into,
It's your motion, so I'm not sure.
Hey,
well, that wasn't mine.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Who else? Mr. Art?
I would move that the council adopt option 1, and that is adopt the findings of fact 1 through 5 as presented by the staff and deny the appeal of the street connection.
Have a motion for option number 1. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Any discussion on that motion? Let me ask your vote, please.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? Well, we got to vote on this one, but my next one would be if this is,
Let's vote on this one, and then we'll see where this goes.
okay, then,
May I ask you a vote? The motion on the floor is for option 1, adopt a finding of fact 1 through 5 as presented by staff and deny the appeal of the street connection. Let me ask you a vote, Mr. Bates. Thank you, sir. See everybody? All right, that motion carries. Mr. Chris, I have you twice, sir. What color?
Take the green light off, sir.
Take the green light off. Okay.
that still went.
That motion carries. Those in favor, Mr. Hurst, Mr. Shivani, Mr. Art, Ms. Davy, Mr. Hare, Mr. Massey, Mr. Fowler. In opposition, Mr. Chris, Mr. Bates, and Ms. Applewhite. Okay, we'll move now to item 6.2, which is our second public hearing concerning a rezoning request on Fayetteville Road.
Trying to get it off.
We're ready, sir.
Evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Next case we have before you is P1152F. This is a public hearing. It's an appeal of a zoning commission denial for rezoning. The requested action is to go from an SF15 to an MR5 conditional district. The property is located at 7015 Fayetteville Road, and it's approximately 15 acres in size. Here on the zoning aerial map, you can get an idea of where the property is located and what surrounds it. We do have some more MR5 here to the north and east of the property. Around most of the property is more the SF15, SF6, which is our medium density residential to the south, and some SF10 here to the east as well. Fayetteville here, just off going off the screen here, you've got Yadkin Road, and then off the screen on the other side you've got Riley, so you're kind of right in the middle of the two of those. The current land use in the area is predominantly low-density residential, as you can see from the yellow. The beige color being medium-density residential areas. And our land use plan for that area calls for low-density residential throughout this area. You do see the red here back to Yadkin Road for commercial, and some medium density, again, the apartment complex to the south of this property. Don't know how well you can see this, but this is the current proposal that went before the Zoning Commission of having the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 apartment buildings on the property, with a clubhouse here in the middle, and one ingress egress off of Fayetteville with kind of a loop road. This also serves as parking through the development. A good portion of the development, as you can see, this area to the west, basically cut off about right in this area. Everything to the west of that is either creek, floodplains, or wetlands. So this is basically the high side, and the only real developable portion of the property is there to the east. As a reminder, we do have a protest petition that's been filed on this particular project. The yellow on your map indicates the 100-foot area around this property, and the red indicates properties properties that we had owners sign the petition for that own part of that yellow band area. Just as a reminder, with the protest petition, basically the owners of 5% of that yellow area have to sign it, which they have. I think it's about 28% in this case. And what that does is then kicks this into a supermajority vote for council, which means any vote in the affirmative would have to be at least 8 votes to pass.
To rezone.
Yes. I will mention the owners of this property have asked that council remand this case back to the Zoning Commission for consideration of a new site plan. Once this project was denied to the Zoning Commission, the developer met with city staff once again and tried to come up with some areas of concern that not only staff had, but that also came out during the public hearing from the residents of the area, and some suggestions of staff as to what they could do to possibly mitigate some of those. And so at this point, the owners are asking that it be sent back to the Zoning Commission for another shot to go through that process. That is an option for council. Another option, of course, is to hear it as presented tonight. Another option also is to go ahead and deny it tonight, with waiving the 1 year waiting period for rezoning. Those are all options that can be explored tonight. The conditions that have been, again, it is a conditional rezoning request, And the conditions offered do include that attached site plan we just saw, and the reduction in allowed units to 120. Under the MR5 district, they would be allowed basically 300 units if it were just a straight rezoning. The staff and zoning commission zoning commission denied this, and staff had recommended denial based on the scale and location, the uses and zoning district on both sides and across Fayetteville, and low-density single-family residential. But the land use plan calls for low-density residential development. Again, scale and location, the project is at the minimum setbacks along Fayetteville Road, and the amount of new traffic at an area that's kind of a blind spot there on Fayetteville Road. Are there any questions of staff at this point?
Mr. Hare has a question, sir.
Mr. Harmon, whenever the zoning was over, between that time to right now, what's that time frame to this meeting tonight? What's that time frame? Is it a week or day?
In this particular case, it was right at a month.
Okay. Did the developer?
I'm sorry. In this case, it was longer than that because this one actually, my apologies, was heard in December 1st.
It's even longer then.
Yeah, it was.
Did the developer make any efforts at that time to speak with staff and to meet with the residents to see if there could be some clarity? Because you just made a statement that if it's remand, that was what was going to take place. Why was that effort not done for the 2 months that it?
No, if that's the way it sounded, that wasn't exactly what I meant to say. I'm not sure if they have met with any of the residents. They have met with staff. They sat down with staff, and we went through a list of things that we had issue with and that we thought the landowners, property owners around them had issue with, and gave them some suggestions on how they could mitigate some of those things.
Did we have any folk that came out against the zoning?
We did. We had 3 people that spoke in opposition at the at the zoning commission case.
Did their considerations come up in that meeting that you were talking about that took place?
We did our best to communicate to them what we felt those issues were. Like I said, I don't know if they have spoke directly with the residents or not.
Thank you, Mayor.
Craig, put the slide back on you had before that one, please. The one where you had the number 1 through 4, that were reason, that. Now, that's staff's recommendation for denial, right?
Yes, and that was also the reason.
But the developer wants to send it back to zoning for a relook. What would change your mind about the amount of traffic into a blind spot on Fayetteville, or the setback, or the land use requirement? I guess I'm asking, if it goes back to zoning, how is that going to change your staff's objections?
Well, without seeing a new site plan, it's hard to say. What they're looking to do, or what they're wanting to do, is redesign the project. Some of the things that we have mentioned, one, you should have a copy of the TIA that was put together by the developer. Some of the things that it suggests, there's some changes DOT has in the works for both the light at Yadkin and the one at Raleigh Road. And then here, they would be required to put a right turn lane into the property and another lane in the middle of this to have a left into the property as well, coming one from the left in from the Yadkin Road side, a right in from the Raleigh Road side. When we spoke to them, some of the issues that we brought up to them were some of those issues that were in the objection list there, like having these buildings right up front, right up to the setback line here, and having them right to the setback line here, and some possible redesign to where, that was mitigated a bit, things of that nature.
Thank you.
Mr. Harmon, I haven't heard in any discussion in any of the rework of the plans that there would be any reduction over the current number planned to put in, and that was 120. Is that correct?
Well, at this time, all we've done is had a meeting with the developer and discussed with him options that they had or things that we saw as roadblocks for them getting this passed and some things they could do in a redesign to possibly help their cause. The number of units is not something that we've really discussed with them, and that would be strictly on the developer side, what they're trying to get out of the piece of property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Stand by. We'll open the public hearing. Do you have another question?
Yes, sir, I do.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I need to get this clear in my mind. The protest petition is against an apartment complex regardless of whether it's 120 units or 100 units. Is that right? Is that what we're dealing with?
Currently, what the protest petition is against this particular case, which is a conditional zoning, which is set, the number of units is set at 120 units.
Which will allow 120 apartment units, right?
Yes.
And the protest is to not allow that?
The protest is to not allow the rezoning.
To not allow apartments in that residential area, right?
Well, it's to not, yes, it's to not allow the rezoning, and without the rezoning.
That would allow the building of apartments.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ma'am, we'll open the public hearing.
So our first speaker speaking in favour is Mr. Chris Percy.
Good evening.
Hello, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Chris Pusey, 409 Chicago Drive, Suite 112, here in Fayetteville, 28306. Craig's giving you the background, and generally what we wanted to do, what we were asking from you, is for this to be sent back so we can address the 4 concerns that staff had for us. And also, I think it was Mr. Hare, you were asking about the addressing the concerns of the people who spoke against it in the zoning commission. There were 3 then, and all of the concerns from the people who lived there had to do with traffic. We did address that. To the best that we could right now is to examine what the traffic situation is there and look at the impacts that it'll have on in the future should this project be built. That's in the TIA that you should have, and from memory, it looks like the level of service at both the Riley and the Yadkin intersections may increase by about 2 seconds a trip or less over the next 2 years.
Say that again, please. I'm sorry. Say that again, what you said.
The way the traffic impact analysis looks at the intersections is through their level of service. 3 areas were reviewed in the TIA. That would be the intersections to the west, the intersections to the east, and then the point directly on Phil Y'all where our driveway would be. And I think it's the 3rd page of the report that sums up what Davenport Engineering has projected in the future, that if this project were built, you have about a 2-second increase in delay compared to what is there today. The level of service is lengthened by 2 seconds at both the intersections and unimpacted, I believe unimpacted, at our site. This is our attempt to address the traffic situation, or at least analyze it. The TIA did not require a left-hand turn lane into the site. It will be built with a left-hand turn lane if it's allowed. As far as the scale and location, which were the two other main points that planning had for us, we've had discussions with them about shuffling buildings and parking, moving parking closer to property lines where buildings are now close to property lines, and in fact relocating a couple of the buildings. And the general point of the discussion was softening the view from the street and softening the view from the east, which are close to single-family residential. We're buffered on the west side by about 300 or 400 feet of woods, and to our south is existing apartments. So I think if we can address the view from the road, the view from the east, I think that the only negative that we'll have on that list of 4 would be the land use plan calling for this to be low-density residential. And I think if we can mitigate this to where that's the only negative that we have a potentially successful rezoning.
Thank you, sir.
So our next speaker is Mr. Steve Strappy.
Good evening. My name is Steve Strapick. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, 6009 Tenbury Court. Phone number is 919-740-8291. I am one of the developers of the property, and wanted to say that, again, our purpose here tonight is to have the project return back to the Planning Commission so we can work with them to come up with a project that will be an asset to the community and be something that the city can be proud of. As Chris Busey noted, we did listen to the people in the zoning meeting, and everyone who spoke primarily about the traffic issue that they felt was a problem with that site. We retained a professional traffic engineering company who took the project as was designed with 120 units, took the traffic that was currently on the road, made that analysis and came up with the findings as Chris had stated. We had no input into that. It was purely a engineering review of what would happen if and when the project is built. We intend to build a quality project. It's a Class A 1, 2, and 3 bedroom townhome type apartments. The plan is to work with the Planning Commission, as Chris had said, to provide more land between the buildings and the community. Again, on the west side of the property, we have approximately 300 feet of buffer between those folks. And on the tail of the property, down towards the bottom, next to the existing apartments that's there will be no development in that, so nothing will change on that part of the site. It's all primarily up into the top right of the site as you see it there. And we appreciate your consideration for sending it back to planning and let us work with them to come up with a plan that works for everybody.
Thanks for coming, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
We'll wait till the end of the public
Okay.
hearing, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. James McKeithen.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is James McKeithen, 1936 Culpeper Lane, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28304. I'm going to kind of take a little bit different approach and put a face on this project. And I'm going to start back in the 1940s. My father was a member of the 2nd Armored Division during World War II. And as such, he had that duty to serve his country several years while he was there, but in the Battle of the Bulge particularly. As a part of his work on the battlefield, he was promoted, battlefield promotion, and then was a member, not a member, but awarded the Silver Star for gallantry in action. After he came back from the war, he headed to North Carolina State to secure his education. There he finished, came back to Fayetteville, and this is when, in 1949, he went to Fayetteville Road. Back then it was known as Blackjack Road, but Fayetteville Road. And at that time, there were probably 3 or 4 residences on that street. 3 or 4 residences. Very little traffic at that time, as we speak about traffic. But over the years, that community was transformed, and houses went up around it, and his part of his work there on Fayetteville Road was agricultural. And you know, the things changed. Houses to the south, the apartment complex, and then of course to the south north, the new complexes there, Jamestown Commons. So we've had to make adjustments all of this time, and we've seen this encroaching development of Summerhill and others. Now, I would just make a comment or two here, nothing technical, but of course we've heard about transportation this evening, and it appears that those issues are going to be resolved based on the traffic studies that have been done. We've got a project that we're willing to and have the capacity to make some adjustments in that would make this overall a doable enterprise. With the signal here, 19 seconds left, let me just say that the McKeithans, and including my father, who passed away last March 18th, was behind this project. He said, let's go forward with it. And one of the things that we convinced him of, that he believed, and we hope to convince you of, is that we're looking for something that will improve the community. And this project certainly will have that overall impact to improve the community in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKeithen. Thank you for coming, sir.
Our next speakers are all in opposition. The first one is Mr. Emmett Dover.
Mr. Mayor,
sir,
gentlemen, ladies. I am Emmett Dover. I live at 6463 Freeport Road here in Fayetteville. I've been there since 1984. I introduced myself to you all on the 13th when we had the focus meeting, so therefore I'd like to spend all of my effort and energy in going into this data. At the time, as I stated, we had survived the April 16th tornado, and while still in recovery, received notification of the Planning Division of the rezoning proposition that was coming up, where it would allow the construction of a 120-unit apartment complex in the middle of our neighborhood. A copy of that letter and the Planning Board's map are in the yellow data folders that we gave to each of you this week. We were also surprised that the Planning Division letter showed only a small area as affected, 500 feet around 7015 Filia, when in fact such a rezoning and construction would affect all of Summerhill, Roundtree, and Four Seasons subdivisions. To explain that, I prepared a map, and it's in your folders. It shows that there are only 5 entry and exits to these areas, to our area. A is Filia Road to North Riley Road, which has a traffic light. B is is Filia Road to Yadkin Road with a traffic light. C is Dandridge Drive to North Riley Road with a stop sign. Summerhill Road to Yadkin Road is D, and it has a stop sign. E is Paxton Drive to North Riley Road, which has a stop sign. Note that this area boundaries Fort Bragg itself, and there's extremely heavy traffic flow going to and from Fort Bragg from 6 to 9 a.m. and from 3 to 6 p.m., which makes it very difficult to get in and out of our subdivision. Also, you will notice on your map there are already 4 apartment complexes in our neighborhood. They are 2 apartment complexes and 2 townhouse complexes. One is Jamestown Commons with an entry-exit on Filia Road itself with 120 apartments. Number 2 is the Applewood Apartments with entry and exit on Filia Road with 120 apartments. 2 is the Summerhill Townhouses with entry and exit on Freeport with 120 townhouses. And 4 Dornock Court with townhouses with entry and exit on Bromley Drive with 120 townhouses. These complexes and add an additional 480 units that already utilize a very busy entry and exits to our subdivision. And we have also submitted petitions to the board, and I'm sure each of you have received emails and phone calls from the residents of this area asking you to deny this rezoning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dover. Thanks for coming, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So our next speaker is Mr. Irving Maxwell.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Irving Maxwell, and I live at 7113 Fayetteville Road. Tonight, you are scheduled to render a decision on the request to rezone property at 7015 Fayetteville. The property is zoned for single-family homes, and we strongly request it remain so. To permit 120 additional apartments to be constructed in this area will increase traffic and noise and destroy the makeup of our neighborhood. Many of the homeowners on Fayetteville Road, as well as in the Summerhill subdivision, are senior citizens, military retirees, or connected to the military in some way. We purchased our homes because of the convenience to Fort Bragg and to the medical services available at Womack Army Medical Center. We purchased our homes thinking the area was an ideal community in which to retire. Please do not destroy our dreams by rezoning the property. Fayetteville, a mile-long street, was once a convenient and peaceful street. It is now a densely populated area with apartment complexes at both ends of the street. Just off Yadkin Road is Jamestown Commons with 216 apartments. The Applewood Village Apartments with 56 units is near Riley Road. Since the sole access to these apartments is Fayetteville Road, there is a high volume of traffic in this area. Additional apartments on this street would increase the population density in an already congested area and have a negative impact on the quality of life of homeowners, a neighborhood in which many of us are still trying to recover after the devastating tornadoes of less than a year ago. Fayetteville Road is the only entrance exit to the property in question, and the frontage is located on the portion of the street where Fayetteville enters a blind curve and dangerously snakes toward Riley Road. In addition, the property is located opposite Danish Drive, which is the only access to the Four Seasons housing area, a street with 56 households. This area becomes extremely hazardous during icy or snowy conditions. Heavy traffic, numerous speeders, and increased noise are major concerns to homeowners along the street. At times, the traffic is so heavy that we are forced to turn around on our lawns to avoid backing out onto the street. According to the Fayetteville Police Department, 45 accidents and 186 citations were issued in the Fayetteville Road area during 2011. The lack of sidewalks on the street makes walking or crossing the road a hazardous venture. As the street becomes more congested, we are concerned about the decline in property value of our homes. Please do not rezone the property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming, Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Mr. Robert Arizmendi.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Roberto Arizmendi, and I reside at 1317 Fraser Drive in the Summerhill East subdivision. I've been a resident of Summerhill East since June of 1990. As parents of an 8-year-old daughter, my wife Maria and I have been extremely concerned about the increased amount of vehicular traffic and speeding specific to our neighborhood. The pending rezoning of the property at 7015 Fayetteville will only further amplify our concerns to our neighborhood and our families. Summerhill East currently has approximately 61 homes. This figure excludes 8 homes which have yet to be rebuilt due to the tornado that severely impacted our neighborhood in April 2011. Including these homes would potentially increase the total number of single-family dwellings to 69. The Liberty Square apartment complex adds 120 apartment units which are located on Dornock Drive. These 120 apartments can only be accessed through Summerhill East. In light of all the aforementioned multifamily dwellings and single-family dwellings, traffic solely within Summerhill East in my opinion, has become excessive. Access to and from Summerhill East can only be achieved by way of Bromley Drive, which intersects Filial, and by way of Fraser Drive, which intersects Freeport. This limited access continues to challenge homeowners and tenants alike, especially during peak hours as commuters travel to and from work. To further exacerbate matters, there have been several instances where traffic on Filial has been redirected due to traffic accidents and or utility construction. Many times under these circumstances, frustrated drivers detour through our neighborhood in order to reach their final destination. Many of my neighbors have expressed traffic and speeding concerns to be one of their primary concerns for Summerhill East area. The possible rezoning of the subject property has also raised concerns with respect to disregard of private property by others in our neighborhood. In the past, I have personally witnessed on several occasions where individuals wandering from the apartments located on the Windy Hill Circle, jumping over fences and destroying personal property and trespassing into the private lots, specifically 1317 and 1320 Fraser Drive. Many times the homeowners are left to repair these damages at their own expense. My concern is that more of the same may continue to occur with more frequency if the rezoning of the subject property is approved. To the best of my knowledge of the signatures obtained, which are representative of the specific homes in Summerhill East, 26 of the 61 homeowners are opposed to the rezoning of the property at 7015 Filial. It is our hope the City Council will affirm our opposition by denying of the rezoning of said property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
So our next speaker is Mr. Chris North.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have to reintroduce myself all over again here, I think, since the military service seems to have been brought into this matter. I live in Penwall Court, 902 Penwall Court. I'm 82 years young next April. I'm a Korean and Vietnam Wars veteran. I have 2 Purple Hearts and some other awards. Let's put the military matter out of it, military service out of it, and consider what we face at the present date. I moved to Summerhill, where I have been there over 25 years, and I moved there to retire and enjoy my retirement. I haven't been able to do that in the last 4 or 5 years, not too well. I strongly oppose this rezoning for the excellent reasons that's already been stated. I won't go over them again. And also for the increase in crime that these huge multiple dwellings invariably develop whenever they encroach into our neighborhood. Now we're going to get another. We have 4 already, and we're going to get another one now, a monster shoved down our throat probably, unless you folks step in. And it's another matter of forced annexation. You recall they talk about it being good for the tax base for the city, and that we have to build up the tax base for the city. We were annexed to Fayetteville under the mother of all annexations, largest in Cumberland County history, and we pay taxes too. So our taxes ought to be just as good as the taxes that will be developed for these people that are going to put this monstrous development into our neighborhood. I'm bothered by the lack of concern the developers seem to have for what the misery can be brought on the present residents in the neighborhood, as aptly described by the past speaker. It seems that it doesn't seem to matter to them much anymore. And I think that we've just about had enough. I don't think we're going to be able to take any more. And I don't think that these people that came here tonight, these young folks behind me, didn't come here to bother you. They came here to impress upon you how they feel about it. I got over 200 names from these people here. Some of you stand up. From these people here who don't want to give up their neighborhood. Thank you. Who don't want to give up their neighborhood to the developers again. 4 times is too many. Now you got a 5th one coming along, and we say no. We demand that you fight this and get on our side and fight this encroachment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. North. Thank you for coming, sir.
Mr. James, sir.
Sir, our final speaker is Mr. Mario Wosenak.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, good evening. Mario Francis Wozniak. I'm a resident of Summerhill. I live at 7207 Godfrey Drive. I'm a little unique in that I've only recently returned. I came back March 17th, a year ago, so I experienced the tornado. And I got the $5,000 easement, and that was a lot of fun. But I come from a different perspective. Fayetteville, you've done a great job with Fayetteville. I haven't seen it since 1996, and you've done a great job. I come from the Fort Benning area, and Benning has done a great job when I was there first in 1977. So kudos for you. You've done a great job. But Fayetteville is a treacherous road. You've heard. I see it every day. At lunch, I'll make a right turn on Fayetteville onto Yadkin and go all the way down to Santa Fe and come back into Bragg because it's clustered and it's dangerous. It is a treacherous road. It's just not blind spots. It's treacherous. I was in the Pentagon on 9/11, and I don't say that to gain any praise. I was just there. I had a guardian angel on my shoulder, and I'm blessed to be here today because I wasn't in the other side of the Pentagon that got hit. But 9/11 hit Fayetteville too in the Summerhill area. Yes, sir. It hit Fayetteville because now we have those gates that are there that used to be open access. When I was here in 1996, I could run to the USASOC headquarters where I worked. I could walk there. I could take my bike. I wouldn't ride up Fayetteville anymore with my bike. I ride my bike, but up Riley Road because it's too dangerous. It's too narrow. It's treacherous. It's a steep hill down there, and this apartment complex is just going to make it worse. The community is recovering from the tornado. We've got depressed properties. We've got vacant lots still. It's made a huge way. It was a war zone the day after April 16th. And in some respects, it still is. And if you put an apartment complex in there, those property owners like me and the ladies and gentlemen in this room, it'll be depressed longer. We've got the uncertainty of the bypass coming through. Do something to improve the area. Buy the land from the gentleman who's got it and turn it into a park. We need some green space for our young kids. When I was a young kid in Iowa, I could walk 3 blocks to a small little park. I could walk with my brothers and sisters 8 blocks to another park, play tennis, whatever. We need some space for our kids to keep them out of trouble. We don't have anything. Now we got Ben Martin Elementary School, but we don't have places for ladies to walk with their kids. There's no sidewalks. Make an improvement in the area. You can do that. I know that. I've seen some good things in Fayetteville. I just have faith in you that you'll do better. My daughter grew up here. I've got some fond memories. I probably won't stay in Fayetteville. My wife's a Georgia girl, and she said we're going back to Georgia, and sorry, I'm going with my wife. But I love the area. It's close. The price of gas is going up. It's going to continue to go up. That's just the reality. You can remake that area. Riley Road was fixed before I left. It's still the same. It's a decent road now. But Yadkin Road needs to be fixed. It's the Daytona 500 from that stoplight. It is the Daytona 500. It's treacherous down Yadkin Road. It's treacherous down Fayetteville. It's even treacherous on Riley Road. And they're closing that gate. They made a partial closure of the gate. Make a positive improvement. Turn that into a park, a green space for the community, for the good of Fayetteville. That could be North Fayetteville. Thank you.
So we have no further speakers.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have a couple of questions here. Mr. Hare?
No, sir, that was for a motion.
All right. We'll close the public hearing, entertain any questions. Hearing none, I think that was not a question, sir. Did anyone have any questions? Okay, Mr. Hare.
Yes, sir. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny the rezoning request as recommended, please.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hare, Mr. Bates. Quick draw, McGraw. Have a motion. Any discussion of the motion? Ms. Applewhite, go ahead.
Without knowing the outcome, I just wanted to take the time to applaud all of the citizens that have come together. This is really what caring about your community is really about. So without even knowing the outcome, I absolutely applaud you for taking the time for doing what you've done.
Okay, let me ask for your vote on the motion. The motion is deny the rezoning request. Mr. Bates?
I tell you, there's something wrong with this button.
Maybe because you're
Mr.
talking,
Bates is green.
You're voting
Pull on the
too
trigger
quick.
when you're second.
You're voting too quick. Okay, that's unanimous. The rezoning is denied. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move now to item 6.3, and as you leave, we'll just ask if you'll leave quietly so we can proceed on with our next case. Give that a minute.
Hey, you all remember, we just won the fight, not the war. We're going to have to do it again.
Be quiet here for me.
They're not organized. I haven't been.
That's why the UDO passed.
Just a reminder, Mr. Mayor, this next case is a special use permit, and so we do need to swear in anyone who looks to speak at this case.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody speaking on item 6.3 tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you need to swear in, sir?
Yeah, it's probably best if I do.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Mr. Harmon, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We don't need any more. Thank you, Mr. Harmon.
Mr. Mayor, the next case we have before you is case P1204F. This is the requested action here is for a special use permit for a major utility. It's property located at 8880 Cliffdale Road. It's just under 2 acres in size. This is actually expansion of an existing utility. You'll see here on the aerial map where this is located. We've got Seaford here to the south and Cliffdale here in front of the property. What they're looking to do, and I'll put the map up on the overhead in just a moment, but they're looking to do a small expansion back in this area here of the property. It is completely surrounded by residential, but again, like I said, this is an existing utility. Again, low-density residential mainly around the property, with this property being the utility itself. Land use plan calls for low-density residential on this property, and then across the street over here in the orange would be medium-density residential. Let's see. I'm just going to quickly put up the site plan for this. You can see here on the site plan, this area in the darker color here to the back of the property. This is the expansion that they're looking to do with Cliffdale Road here. As I mentioned, it is a small expansion that they're looking for. Being a special use permit, there are a series of findings that have to be made if this is to pass. We have put these up. The Zoning Commission and staff have recommended approval of the special use permit based on the standards listed below. And we see that we and the Zoning Commission saw that it met all 8 standards. The applicant, Lumbee River, has also agreed to some additional specifications for this. I want to back up just here to the aerial. If you notice here on the south side of the project, the trees are a little thin, bordering these residential properties. They've agreed to put in some new evergreen trees along that border to thicken that up. And then they've also agreed to put some greenscape here along Cliffdale Road in front of the project in order to soften the feel of it from Cliffdale Road. Are there any questions of staff at this point?
Mr. Fowler?
Yes, sir, Mr. Harmon. These statements that you have up here that are presented to us as statements of fact, were those sworn statements in a quasi-judicial hearing by the utility when they spoke to you about this?
These are not sworn statements of fact. These are statements of what the Zoning Commission felt how the utility met those 8 criteria.
Was the utility aware that we were having this hearing tonight?
Yes.
And they do not have a witness here about these items?
It doesn't appear to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions? All right, sir, stand by. We'll open the public hearing.
So we have no speakers for this item?
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and entertain any additional questions or a motion from council. Mr. Fowler?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Seeing as we do not have a witness for sworn testimony and to be able to ask questions for determining the facts of the situation here, I propose that we deny the request until we can have a witness here to explain the facts.
Ms. McDonald, can you explain the implications of a denial of the rezoning? Would the 1-year period come into play?
Actually, the 1 year, it's a special use permit, and so the 1 year would not come into play. It actually would be a denial until there is a change in the circumstances that would warrant a different decision.
And that circumstance being someone would be here, would that be a circumstance different?
I was getting ready to ring in and say it would just be a straight denial. If council is so inclined, because it is a special use permit and you do have to make your decision based on the evidence that is presented, if council is so inclined, council could table this to a time when you could get a representative here, or again, you're making your decision based on the evidence that's presented and you have none, and so the motion would stand as is without a specific time period.
Mr. Fowler, I'm sorry.
I would amend that motion to table it until we have a witness.
Second.
Okay, have a motion, amended motion to table. That was seconded by Mr. Chris. Have another question by Mr. Bates.
Well, Ms. McDonald, would the special use permit will be based on the conditions stated, correct, and not on the conditions stated by what he said? Is that, I mean, we're going by the conditions that are written, stated here in our packet, and not what you expect someone to say if they were here.
As a part of the special use permit process, you have to make the findings that are outlined in your packet. And so if you do not have anyone here to specifically answer those questions or address questions that council may have about whether it would be detrimental to the community, whether it fits into the character, those type of things, then it would certainly be appropriate to deny the request, or as the motion is on the floor at this time, to table it until a representative is here to answer those questions and satisfy any concerns that council may have.
All right, thank you. And then if this was tabled tonight, would we have to go through the advertisement and the mailings for another public hearing? Or does this count as the public hearing tonight?
If the proposal is to table it, then I would, if council is so inclined to table it, then I would recommend that you table it to your next meeting in which public hearings are held, which would be your fourth Monday in March, whatever that date is. And so that would not require re-advertisement of this item.
Thank you.
Would the public hearing continue? Walk us through that, ma'am. That's the 26th, I believe.
We have.
I've already closed the public hearing tonight.
Right. Yes, Mayor. We would propose, if the council is so inclined at this point, that we would table the public hearing until whatever date certain, and yes, you would allow testimony from the applicant at that time.
Wade, you clear on that? You all right with that? You okay with
Just
Mr.
make sure
Chris?
I'm clear. Basically, we would reopen the public hearing at the time they had a witness here to test.
We would table
testimony.
the public hearing. So
Table
yes.
the public hearing
Yeah,
until
Mr.
it's
Chris.
testimony.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Applewhite, I'm sorry, do you have a question?
I did. It may be a staff question. This is new, first time we've done this, but doesn't mean that it's not correct or a good thing to do. But when these applicants are aware that there's going to be a special use permit, I would think that if this applicant was told to be present because he had to give a sworn statement, I would venture to guess that he would be here. We've not done this before, so my question is, what are applicants told when, in terms of preparing for our vote and being that it's a special use permit?
Yeah, in this particular case, I've spoken to the representative of Lumbee several times, and they've gotten, their notice for this, and they were aware that, this was going to be another public hearing, and that, they need to be here to, to present their side of the case, but I don't know why they are not tonight.
Mr. Bates?
Thank you, sir. Ms. McDonald, I just want to make sure that the difference between tabling it and denying is that if it's denied, then we don't have to do anything else. If we table it, I just want to make sure that the city have to pay for re-advertising and mailing out letters, and we have to repay to do all this again. That's my concern. They should have been here, otherwise.
Okay, all right. Let's answer that question, and then let's just get to this.
This is a public meeting, and so if you table it to a date certain, then under the open meetings law, you do not have to re-advertise it.
So there would be no, just to get to the point Mr. Bates was making, there'd be no additional cost to the city because you wouldn't have to re-advertise it, and it'd be at the next meeting on the 26th of March.
Right.
Okay. Is that it? Mr. Chris, do you have a question, sir?
But, Ms. McDonald, if we denied it tonight, that would have to be based on the facts in our packet. Is that correct? And if we have, for example, I have some questions about some of the things in there, and the representative is not here to answer them. But if we denied it, it would be based solely on what's in there, correct?
You are, during a special use permit hearing, your decision is supposed to be made on the evidence that is presented.
Right.
And so in this case, if council has questions that they cannot answer, then you cannot actually pass the special use permit until you have confirmed or are satisfied that all of the conditions have been met.
Mr. Massey?
And for the point of clarification, there's nothing to prevent us from denying it after the 26th of March. Is that correct?
That'd be correct. We'd
Thank
make
you.
the decision that evening based on this motion. Are there other questions? Did I get everyone? I'm sorry, I've got a couple. Did I get everybody?
I just want to make sure that the motion included the specific date.
I had March 26th, table the public hearing until a representative is here to answer the questions on the March 26th city council meeting.
I can live with that.
Is everybody clear on that motion?
Yes, now, Mr. Mayor, now, on the 26th, what if he doesn't show up? You saying we
Then
can't?
we deny it.
Actually, well, no, I mean, you can't actually deny it
Yeah, we can.
because you can't ask, you have to go by questions of fact, asking him questions. Now, if on the 26th,
Well, that could go on infinitum here. I mean, we're going to direct him to be here on the 26th, and we'll continue the public hearing that night, and we'll deal with whatever conditions are presented to us that evening. Let me, everybody clear on the motion? Let me ask for your vote on the motion, please. Okay, that motion carries as in favor, Mr. Chris, Mr. Bates, Ms. Applewhite, Mr. Shivani, Mr. Art, Ms. Davy, Mr. Hare, Mr. Massey, Mr. Fowler, in opposition, Mr. Hirsch. Okay, we'll move now to item 7.1, which is a presentation on the 2001 annual report to the community. Mr. Alman?
Jump forward there.
Okay.
Okay, how do I advance it? Okay, good. Evening again, council. We're pleased this evening to present the 2011 annual report of the city of Fayetteville, and we're very proud of this report. As you all know, you've had copies of it. It's literally an eye-popping report, but we're proud of the fact also that it was put together completely using our staff, all the photographs, the layout, the design, the commentary, the statistics, and the data included were all developed in-house by our corporate communication staff, and they've really done an excellent job. We want to make sure that, first of all, that everyone understands there's a variety of ways you can get copies of this, and we're going to review that at the very end of the presentation. For those in attendance here this evening, there are copies in the back of the room, hard copies of the report. I'm not going to stand here this evening and read the report for you. I just want to touch on a few of the highlights and then again refer you to areas that you can locate the report. So we encourage everybody to get a copy of this report, read it, share it with your friends and family, because once you see it, you're really going to be proud of the year that we had in 2011 as a city. If we can get this to go forward here. There we go. I think it's well known that in 2011 we were awarded the All-America City Award by the National Civic League. Our application was just an outstanding application, and I think I might be a little biased, but I think we were kind of the star of the show when we went to Kansas City. We talked about our civic engagement and how we had collaboration within the community. We talked about our downtown revitalization and the I-295 bypass and the North Carolina Veterans Park, the fact that we embraced the military in Fayetteville, and the fact that we are a soldier sanctuary in the most patriotic community in the country. And we talked about our strong economy, about how Fayetteville was identified as probably the best housing market in the country at several times during the year 2011, and that we were rated the best community for young professionals in the year 2011. There are many ways that you can gauge positive outcomes, and for cities we often look at construction.
and the value of construction. And if you look at the years, this chart, it shows the years 2009, 10, and 11. Those are the recession years that we just have gone through. Pretty bad years throughout the country. And you can see 2009 was the depth of the recession nationwide, and also here in Fayetteville if you look at construction values. We had $177 million of new construction in 2009. It jumped, it rebounded to $265 million in 2010. But in 2011, it nearly set a new record, climbing all the way to $354 million of new construction in our community. And that's in the middle of a recession. Growth is measured in a variety of other ways. And one that we like to talk about are some of the things that have occurred as a result of the activities that we, the city, have carried out. The Franklin Street parking deck is a project that has literally been on the planning books since 1963, nearly 50 years. The Franklin Street parking deck is now complete. It's open to the public, by the way. I think you'll all enjoy taking a look at it. It's beautifully designed. We used the local architect, local engineering firm, and we made a decision early on to use poured-in-place construction versus precast, because if we used precast, we would have had to ship in parts from outside the community. Instead, we bought local concrete, nearly $3 million worth, that went into the building of this project, and the results are very positive. 298 new spaces in the heart of downtown Fayetteville to serve the community. Code enforcement. You say, well, how does code enforcement really help a community grow? Well, code enforcement is necessary to preserve property values and to also maintain high quality in the neighborhoods of our community. Citywide code enforcement almost doubled in 2011 versus 2009. We had nearly 10,000 notice of violations enforced in 2010 versus just over 5,000 in 2009. So we're doing more to really preserve the value of your property by a more aggressive code enforcement program. The goal is to address issues early on, issues of blight early on, get them fixed while they're less expensive and before the blight really gets a grip on a neighborhood. We all know what can happen once blight takes over a neighborhood. You start to see that downward spiral, and it's very difficult to turn around. So we're trying to be more aggressive. We are being more aggressive, and the results are paying big dividends. Yet another area that we feel are very proud of is the improvements that we made to our transit system, or FAST. Ridership in 2011 exceeded or nearly approached 1.5 million. It's up about $500,000. It says here it's more than double since 2008, but that's not quite right. It's up 500,000 riders since 2008, however. We implemented evening bus service, we expanded routes, and we partnered with the Cross Creek Mall for safer transit centers at the mall. On July 4th, 2011, the City Council and which much great fanfare, we dedicated the newest jewel to the city of Fayetteville, and that's the North Carolina Veterans Park. The Veterans Park, if you haven't been there, and I know the council has, but for the public out there, do yourself a favor and go visit this park. And it's just going to keep getting better and better as the foliage begins to bloom here in the spring and the grass turns green and everything comes together. Is really just going to keep looking better and better. But the park is designed to honor all the military veterans of North Carolina. It tells a story of before service, during service, and after service. And it incorporates many natural and architectural elements from all across the state of North Carolina. There are some symbolic features represented throughout the park that represent the 100 counties and the citizens and veterans from those counties. Now, some of the awards and recognitions that we were successful in accomplishing during 2011 include our finance department was awarded the Excellence in Financial Reporting Certificate of Achievement, which is an international award, as well as our fire department and emergency management department. For the first time, they became internationally accredited police or fire department. The Fayetteville Police Department also won reaccreditation from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and that was the 7th time that we've accomplished that lofty goal. And our Human Resource Department put together a program known as Supervisory Operation Skills, or SOS, and brought home a national award for Program of the Year in 2011. Now, I told you that this report is available in many places, and we distributed copies all over the city already. In fact, you go into your doctor's office or dentist's office, you're likely to find copies of the annual report. We've cast a wide net in terms of distributing this. We've also put the reports in area attractions such as the Botanical Gardens, the ASOM Museum, swamp dogs and the fire ants, the Museum of the Cape Fear and the Fascinate You Museum. Our local nonprofits have received copies, as have our partners at the Chamber of Commerce, the Arts Council, and others. Business leaders have received copies, and we plan to send them even more. But if you haven't seen a copy yet and you're not here this evening to get a hard copy, please visit our webpage, and the address is on the screen at www.cityoffayetteville.org, or our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/City of Fayetteville. Or you can stop by here at City Hall, pick one up at the information desk at the front of City Hall, or email Nathan Walls at ci.fay.nc.us. Again, we're proud of this report. We're proud of the year of 2011. It was a banner year, and we all should be proud of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman. Thank you very much. Any comments on that, Mr. Chris?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hyman, I know that you said the report is on the website. While you were talking, I just jotted down 10 things that I, like you, are very, very proud of what we've accomplished in that year. But for somebody whose time is limited, if they go to the website, is there a capsule item in there that says, for example, let me just tell you what I jotted down. Accomplishments, All-American City Award, North Carolina Veterans Park, strong economy, housing market, and the amount of millions. Parking deck, 298 spaces. Code enforcement, fast improvements, finance department certificate and citation, fire department national accreditation, human resources department cited, assistant city manager cited. Is there a way to see these accomplishments in short form rather than having to sift through there? If somebody from out of town looking says, let me see what Fayetteville's all about.
No, this is very well organized, and it's rather succinct and to the point. It's a total of, 15 pages long? But it has a table of contents. You'll see the table of contents at the beginning, and you can see not only those things that you mentioned, but also sections on our disaster recovery after the tornado last year, sustainability and the things that we're doing to become a more sustainable city, a green city, if you will, a growing city, financial summaries, statistics and data on the budget. All those are included, and it's set up just the way the hard copy is on the web page. So you can go to the table of contents, find the section you're most interested in, and go directly to that. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. But if I'm out of town, I'm a person looking for the possibility of business, I don't have time to read through a 15-page report. That's my point. And that I'm saying is somewhere in the front of this, can we say, here's what we've done?
Oh, yeah, there's a message at the beginning that summarizes the accomplishments, the annual report to the community, the message. That summarizes that at the very beginning. It's kind of an executive summary of the entire report.
Okay.
I'm sorry I missed the question, I guess.
Thank you. Now you hit
Yeah.
what I want the public to know.
Sure.
Executive summary. Thank you.
I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the report as provided. Thank you, Mr. Harper. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Any discussion on that motion? May I ask for your vote, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. Good work everybody involved with that. Thank you. Okay, item 7.2, presentation of appointment committee recommendation for boards and commissions appointment. Mr. Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor, and members of council. The appointment committee, which consists of Mayor Schiavone, Councilmember Crispin, myself, met on February 15th and earlier this evening, February 27th, to fill vacancies on the city's boards and commissions, and we appreciate those citizens that do serve on our boards and commissions and those that applied, and these recommendations will be moved tonight for your approval. From that meeting, the committee selected the candidates that's listed in your agenda packet on 7.2. With that, I move for the City Council to accept these recommendations for appointment, and they are as follows. Ethics Commissions, we had 2, Gwen Holloman and Alicia Shaw. Fair Housing Board, Charlize Gibbs and Larry Simmons. We still have a vacancy as far as an attorney position for Fair Housing Board. Historic Resources Commission, Nicolette Lanius, Matthew Huffman, and Tamara Brothers. Human Relations Commission, Lynn Thomas and Kristen Dawson. Personnel Review Board, Annie Pope, Milton Gilbert, and Gordon Munden. And Zoning Commission, David Barron and Nathan Scales, who will serve as an alternate. And the Fayetteville Advisory Committee on Transit Fact would be Craig Williams as the ADA representative.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Chris seconded it, and a question, I think, Mr. Massey. Yes, sir, Mr. Massey.
Fine. Second.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Thank you very much. Any questions on the motion on the floor? May I ask your vote, please? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Miss Applewhite's got your back over there, buddy. Okay, we'll move now to item 7.3, the long-awaited consideration of the Rental Action Management Program. Mr. Bauer, thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. Just briefly, I know that you've considered this for a very long time and had a lot of conversation with the community and amongst yourselves about the important elements of this important program. So I'm just going to briefly go over the agenda memo, some of the key items that we've changed in response to your feedback from the last time it was before your council. Basically, what we've done is we've adjusted the definition of apartment complex to focus the program initially on things that are a triplex or lower. Anything that is an apartment complex, which is defined as 4 units or more, at this point is excluded from the base operation of ramp. Now, there is a avenue for the council to actually take direct action to consider an apartment complex and actually bring an apartment complex into the program, but that would be through specific action of the council. That process, there isn't a lot of definition around what sort of criteria council would look at. That gives you a lot of flexibility. Also leaves it a little open for us to sort of work together on how to bring forward consideration of apartment complexes for consideration in the future, should we want to do that. So at this point, we'll focus on, again, single family up to a triplex in the program as is currently defined. We've also added some opportunities for appeal to the council of the social disorder issue and changed the definition of social disorder to make it more clear so that programs that may fall into this program, if we take a look at it, and the actual crimes that we witness don't fit that definition of social disorder, then those would not actually come into the program. We'd actually let that property go by and look at the next one down the list. So those are the main changes that we've added to the program to sort of clarify its initial scope and some of the procedures in response to the feedback provided by council. And with that, I'll do my best to answer any questions. Of course, I'm not as familiar with this as Mr. Hewitt, who is no longer with us, but we'll do what we can should you have questions.
Sir, can you go through kind of the implementation schedule as it's currently outlined, and then we'll be all clear on that if it were approved tonight?
You bet. Our recommendation is that you would approve the ordinance actually effective the next fiscal year, which is July 1. Between now and then, we would focus on hiring staff and getting those staff on board. It probably wouldn't be until after that July 1 period when we'd start moving on code enforcement initially and actually getting code enforcement and getting the first runs on eligible properties to move in based on code enforcement violations. That would happen in the July, that first quarter after the fiscal year. So we'd probably see our first entry of programs at the end or the beginning of the next fiscal year in months, basically in September of this year. Now, we'd take us a little bit longer to get up to speed and do the calculations for the social disorder piece. We hope to have, again, our crime analysts on July 1 and start the process of identifying the properties there. We have to create a union. We know where our crimes are, But we have to take that set and create a subset of those ones that are also rental, and then go through the process of identifying which ones are potentially available, and then look at those properties on a case-by-case basis to confirm rental, and then also confirm social disorder and the scores that are available there. So that's a significant piece of analysis that we'll have two individuals who are focused on a full-time basis. So we expect that you're not going to see those until toward the end of this calendar year, toward the end of the second quarter of the next fiscal year.
And we know there are some problematic apartment complexes. When do you think potentially staff would bring those to council for consideration of bringing those in?
Well, that's an idea that's not as completely developed as the rest of it at this point. Our discussions over the last couple of weeks have been that we'd probably see that process follow something like the process that you see for demolishing properties, where we take a look at properties and try to triage those ones that are worst based on the individual facts. My expectation would be that we come back to you probably, and again, in that first quarter of the next fiscal year, outline a process that we'd like to follow, and with your concurrence, move through that process and again start to bring you one or two eligible properties in the second quarter of that next fiscal year.
Thank you, sir. Have a lot of questions here. Mr. Chris?
No, go right ahead.
No, that was kind of just a schedule.
That was basically my question
Okay,
about when will we define the protocol for handling apartment
Okay, sir.
complexes.
Kind of just starts the process tonight, I guess. And Mr. Hare?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bauer, you started out with something about 4 or less what's considered apartments. Then you went to the triplex.
That's correct.
So it
Well,
threw me
single-family
off this.
residences, and of course, this is a definition of law. Only we would see a single-family, something as a duplex or a triplex. But that's what we've defined a single-family residence as, a triplex or less. So anything that's an apartment complex is defined as 4 units or more.
Oh, okay.
And
Now-
so 4 units or more are excluded, triplex or lower are included.
So 4 or less are excluded?
No.
4 or more, and a triplex or less are excluded?
Are included.
Are included. You stated, and Tony just mentioned something about, the mayor mentioned something about the problematic type areas now. Now, they don't start out, the ones that we get a lot of concerns with, they don't already start out in the program, right?
That's correct. At this point, there is no property in the program.
Okay, so again, our startup funding will be the initial funding that comes from the city.
Yes.
Now, these that we've been having problems with, that I guess we're going to, the inspections will start going out there, that's when a possibility of those maybe entering the program after inspections goes out and they go through the whole spiel.
Right. We anticipate that we'll be able to bring on the staff to start the analysis again. Start that recruitment, if you were to approve this tonight. We'll start that recruitment, of course, immediately. It usually takes us 3 to 6 months to actually go through the process of hiring somebody and bringing them on board. So that still puts us at the beginning of the next fiscal year, probably about July 1 when this becomes effective. At that point, that new staff will actually use our existing database to do some research on eligible properties that have code violations sitting out there over the last 12-month period and may qualify for the program. So that's the initial analysis we'll do in that first quarter, the first 3 months after the fiscal year. So you probably see the first opportunity for us to actually bring code violation properties into the program again in September of this year.
Okay, so the ways that they're coming in is also through the automatic code violation and also whatever type of complaints they may get from tenants.
Well, no, it's code violations is one way, and the other one is crime.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Bates?
I didn't touch my light that time.
This time it
I
came
want to make a
on.
motion for the electrician to come and look at Mr. Bates's. Maybe we wired that seat accidentally, and that's why it's. Miss Applewhite, did you hit your light, ma'am?
I did hit mine.
Okay, did you hit his too?
I should.
It could be.
It's okay now.
He could be doing that.
I think several council members have kind of addressed a concern about bringing something back for the apartment complexes. So, have a whole lot to say about that, but I have a whole lot of them in my district. So I look forward to working on that piece.
Ms. Davy? Okay, Mr. Art?
Just very quick, one of the things I would, that I'm mindful of, and I hope we're all mindful, are unintended consequences. As this program goes forward, how do we intend to address or report unintended consequences? We're going to systematically track those, just like we are with the UDO. How are we doing that, Mr. Bauer?
Well, as issues arise, of course, we'll do our best to make council aware of them. I have a hard time asking a question about things that we don't actually intend to occur. But if things that come up that are problematic or concerns are raised, we'll certainly have a conversation with council about those.
And I think one of the modifications that was made where we involved the advisory group perhaps a little earlier, that is in an effort to have kind of a reality check, as it's an unintended consequence, and raise the flag a little quicker.
And I think one of the things that I want to admit a little bit of uncertainty about is we've given you estimates regarding costs and revenues, and those are based on our best guess, but we don't have an example to use to support those. So I think the biggest challenge for us, and the thing that we want to watch closely, is how those work out over that first fiscal year.
Well, I don't think anything would make us happier than if we just found ourselves in this city not having these problems, and we ran ourselves out of business, but we're a long way from that. But
I think we are. I think we are. I think that our estimate is that, given the complexity, especially at the crime side of this, that even though we have eligible the top 10% of crime, we may be able to actually impact only 0.5% or 1% per year, at least initially. Okay. It's going to be
thank you, sir. Great presentation. Other questions out there? Ms. Davey?
Ms. Davey. I'd like to choose option 2 for the motion, and I want to know if I need to modify that. It says direct staff to report back to City Council. Do I need to put a date on that, or just to refine that motion?
I think we could end the motion just at the end of July 1st, 2012. And
okay.
I think we have that scheduled tonight.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance as presented with the effective date of July 1st, 2012.
All right, have a first and a second by Mr. Hurst. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, this is an important one. Let me ask you a vote, please.
Come on, Keith.
Pushing this for him. Did it work?
It's red.
No.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
All right, that motion carries as in favor Mr. Bates, Ms. Applewhite, Mr. Hurst, Mr. Shivani, Mr. Art, Ms. Davey, Mr. Hare, Mr. Massey. In opposition, Mr. Christ and Mr. Fowler. Thank you very much, staff and council, for a long, hard fight there. Okay, we'll move now to item 7.4, which concerns uninhabitable structures demolition recommendation.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, before you this evening is a staff request for adoption of demolition ordinances for 2 buildings determined to be dangerous or blight. Staff has complied with all statutory requirements and determined that these buildings are dangerous or blight. All statutory service requirements relating to the issuance of notices have been met. The properties were either ineligible or failed to apply for the city's acquisition and demolition program. A letter advising that their buildings would be presented to City Council for approval of demolition ordinance was mailed to each of the respective property owners. The first property we have here is 973 Comet Circle. And that's located north of Rayford in the vicinity of Bunks Road. This building's a blighted building. It's not a historic property. It's a vacant house in the residential zone. The utilities for this building were disconnected as of July 19th, 2001. It's been vacant a long time. No calls for 9/11 service in the last 2 years. However, we've had 5 code violations in the last 2 years.
Mr. Bart, before you go to the other one, let me ask you this question. You're saying, yes, that slide there. This building, I assume, it doesn't say boarded up, but it's been since 2001.
It's boarded now.
It says it's boarded.
Yes, sir.
Since 2001.
Do you have any idea how long it's been boarded, Frank?
It's
Are we going to see?
yes, sir. It's been boarded for several years, sir.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have $783.06 in outstanding city assessments for lot cleaning, no outstanding taxes, and as I mentioned before, it's not eligible for the acquisition demolition program. Our low bid for demolition cost was $1,700. And this is a picture of the front of the house
Yeah, we saw these.
and the rear and side yard. Next property is 200 Duke Street. And this is located in the vicinity of Rayford and Skybo Road. This is a dangerous building. It's not a historic property. It's located in a residential zone. The utilities were disconnected November 14th, 2000. We had no calls for 9/11 service in the last 2 years. We've had 6 code violations in that time period. The outstanding assessments for this property for lot cleaning and securing of the building is $4,281.81. It's not eligible for acquisition demolition program. There's no outstanding taxes. And the low bid on this property is $3,489. This is a picture of the front of the building. It's a better picture of, I guess this was a, what did this used to be, Frank? Is this a living room area?
Yes, this was actually a bedroom at the front of the house that was struck by a car.
As you can see, it's the damage that's created to the structure from that accident.
Nobody got hurt.
And if you take a look at this, you can see where the wall's separating here, right along these bricks. This is the interior. And that concludes our presentation.
All right, sir, I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chris.
Yes, sir. Mr. Swanson, just for my, you said no outstanding taxes. How is property value determined on something like that? How much do you tax them?
Well, that's up to the tax assessors. I can't answer that question.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion? Which one is that? Which motion is that? The motion to adopt the ordinance and demolish the structure? Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Hare. And we have a second from Mr. Arp. Any discussion on the motion? I'm sorry, Mr. Bates, did you have Ms. Applewhite, did you have a question, ma'am? Mr. Massey? All right, well, you don't want to bring a house up here at the end of the meeting here. May I ask for your vote, please, Mr. Massey? One more time, sir. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Let me check our agenda. Motion to adjourn.